How about a little you buying that? Shaq had some lines last night, and the panel seemed confused by a lot of them. But when asked who'd win in their primes, he said that Jokic, he'd carve him into chicken, and he dropped 40 on him. Lou, are you buying that 2001 Shaq would dominate current Jokic? By the way, on a 61-point night, no less.
Listen, in 2001, Shaquille O'Neal was the definition of dominant. But we got to recognize the difference in the game, how the game was played. At that time, the ball was still getting thrown in the post. It was still a big man's game. And not only that, a lot of these guys that we're seeing now, like the Jokic of the world, like they play the reason they do because they saw Shaq and said, I'm not going to battle with him in there. I'm not going to battle with guys like him in there. So let me work on my passing ability. Let me work on my shooting ability. And as a result, you got guys like Nikola that can play all the way out to the three-point line and be a threat on all levels of the game. Shaq didn't need that because of how the game was played at that time. There was nothing for him to work on besides free throws. That was his Achilles heel. He couldn't make free throws. But even with that, teams just had to foul him. Like, you had to foul him in order to stop him. It's no way to stop Nikola Jokic because of the range that he has on a basketball floor. And so I don't know if he would carve him up to chicken or barbecue chicken or whatever Shaq likes to say. But at that time, if this game is going to get played in 2001, it's going to go Shaq's way 1,000 times out of 1,000 times. And he's we're talking about the word dominant. When you say dominant, like, what could you Shaq was going to literally run through you. There was nothing that you can do with him. So I'm buying. I gotta buy because Shaquille O'Neal is, and it has always been, the original big man to establish your game after. And these guys just took it 24 years later. These guys just took it and put a new blueprint on it and ran with it.
They finessed it up.
I'll tell you this. I always say 2001 Shaq is the most dominant player ever. That's including Michael Jordan's best year, LeBron James' best year. I think that dude you can drop him in any era and he will barbecue chicken anybody, any team, any scout towards him. That Shaq was unbelievable. And yeah, I do think he would give Jokic 40 and foul him out, and just because the physicality, but he would see double teams, he would see different coverages, he wouldn't be able, and so it did. I guess the era thing, the game would be different. He'd be playing a lot slower back then. He would be up and down. Now, on the flip side, I think Jokic would absolutely cook him too. And I think he'd give him 40 and 15 and 10. And they couldn't be more polar opposites of game. Jokic basically plays like a point guard and does everything. Shaq is just a dominating brute force that you can't guard one-on-one. So I'm buying it, but I'm also buying that Jokic would cook him too. And like Lou said, there's holes in Shaq's game offensively, and that is shooting, and that is free throws. You can't just do that for Jokic because he's just going to make them at 80-85% of the time and score. So there's a way, there's a scout there's a game plan for Shaq at least, and that's foul. There ain't a game plan for Jokic.
Yeah.
So wait, so did you pick Shaq then?
No, I mean, sure. Like, yeah, I think they both have 40. Neither of them can guard each other.
I think we're both confused because they're dominant in their own rights. In 2001, the way that the game was played, it was nothing you could do with Shaq. In 2025, there's nothing you can do with Nikola.
That's what I'm saying. If we had a simulator and we made them play each other, who's going to win?
I think they both would have, but they both would have 40, and like I think they both would fill the stat sheet, and neither of them can guard each other. Neither.
Okay, so you're going to split them.
I want to move the goalpost. Well, actually, I'll move the goalpost a little bit. Shaq's pulling up with Kobe Bryant. That's going to open up the floor for Shaq.
That's not how this works.
Hold on, let me finish. Because of that, I think that gives Shaq a different option to open up the paint and open up the block a little bit more for him. So I don't know. That's me moving the goalposts. I know.
Yeah. You just made up a whole new game that no one was asking about.
I was just trying to see if I could add something to my argument.
No, 2-on-2.
Is it fair to say like they're my two favorite centers of all time? Like, is that like I love Dream.
Chandler, if that's how you feel, you're damn right. It's fair. You say it.
And we're also experiencing it, right? Like, it's always hard to reference the past and then talk about the present. Like we're turning into the guys. Like at some point, you know how Oscar Robertson and all those guys feel about
100%.
their era of basketball. We're turning into those people.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, this was
Like,
our golden
listen,
era of basketball.
The Wilts, the Bill Russells, the Kareems, they're great, but like that's my quarterback. He's Jokic.
Oh my God. Tear in the eye. You know what? Hold that thought, because this next one is a little bit along the lines of what y'all are talking about. So Draymond says that the past eras of NBA players don't respect the current era, and that he doesn't have to respect players just because they came before him. By the way, no other sport does this, just for the record. No other sport has players talking about the past or whatever. But are you buying, Chandler, that the current doesn't have to respect the past?
No, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do, and that's their opinion.
Fair.
Like that's fair, but it is true. In other sports, it's not like you ever heard like Derek Jeter be like Babe Ruth sucked. Like I can hit the ball further than him. It's different eras. The pitching he saw wasn't as nasty as like you never really see that except NBA, which I don't know what that is. Maybe that's on us. Maybe it's a complex.
It's a weird ego thing. I can't figure it out.
It started with Michael Jordan. That's where all of this stuff started. Michael Jordan set the bar so high that in order for anybody to even try to get close to him and you got compared to him, it was just like, no, it's no way that we're comparing these guys to Black Jesus. Like think about the Harold Miners of the world and all these guys that they would call him Baby Jordan back in the day. Like they just set the bar so high for Michael Jordan and his personality and what he did for the game that's where this compare culture came from. I think after that, you just start throwing other guys in, besides us, probably football and quarterbacks, they do it. But other than that, it's just the NBA that has this compare culture. And it's getting to the point where it's just toxic and we can't even celebrate it.
Weird. Because you never heard, like Tom Brady wasn't like Joe Montana sucked. Like that's not a thing that was ever said.
Because the rules have changed so much in the NBA, more so than NFL and MLB, where the physicality is different. So like I play golf with John Barry all the time, ex-NBA player, used to do TV stuff. He's so stuck on, like Steph Curry wouldn't be able to shake free because Gary Payton and Ron Harper would be holding him and hand checking him. And like, it's like that I think is the biggest complex of just because how it's officiated now and the physicality of it. The older guys don't respect because they think we're soft. They think load management is our idea. They think that the new age players couldn't sustain the physicality of back in the day. New age players think the players back in the day just simply weren't as good as us. So like that's where there's a a rift there. But I think it's important to respect obviously the players before you. Like there were some real greats, obviously. There's no doubt. But as a player now, there definitely is like this animosity between old players and current players. And I think it's because of the way the game has gone and the physicality and all the threes and all the money. It's a jealousy
thing. The money.
Thing.
I think the money might be a really big part.
This is the part I agree with Draymond. The older guys don't necessarily respect the current guys either. So you don't have to bow down to these guys just because they played 30, 40 years ago. And what you just said, Chandler, like, the NBA was almost dead in the 80s. Like the NBA was almost out of here. It needed Magic Johnson. It needed Larry Bird. It needed Michael Jordan. And at the point when it got to the point where they couldn't hold and just foul Michael Jordan, that's when the game began to change. Like low scores and all of that. Like we have so many guys from the 70s and 80s that we tout as these tough guys. And it was like all they did was foul. Like, what was the skill? Like, what's the skill there? So I'm not trying to be double disrespectful, but the reality is we have guys in our sport that from that generation of time that we respect because they fouled the hell out of everybody. And
like Bill Lambier. Bill Lambier was his brute force. Couldn't you just put like Mason Plumlee at that time just to foul people? Like, you know what I mean?
Argument. That's just discussion. Yeah. If he's on the right team, he's going to have a great role.
So again, like I was in a meeting when Oscar Robertson said that Chris Paul couldn't even be in the same gym with I forgot his name now. But anyway, again, there's just this disconnection in respect, and we'll never get to the bottom of it, but back to the bottom line, I agree with Draymond. We don't necessarily have to respect who respects you. Simple and plain.
Think about this, Lou. Like
Bob Cousy. Bob Cousy was the guy.
I was going to ask if it was Cousy. It always is. It's always Cousy.
And you know what's crazy? I've recently just seen Bob Cousy on the Celtics documentary, and he even said like, "Oh, we couldn't play with these guys right now." Like he even said it.
Think about
That's
this.
funny because he's in every argument.
Dylan Brooks today is known as just like dirty, kind of rebel, bad boy.
Instigator.
You would just be a normal player back then. But like now it's because of the game. Like, so think about that. I bet you players, old school players, like prefer like a Dylan Brooks who plays like that type, the way he plays, than like a skilled, like, you know what I mean? Like, isn't that, but it doesn't make sense. And it all stems the money. We make more money than they make.
A lot of money.
Hate, jealousy kind of thing, which I totally get. I kind of somewhat feel the same way about these guys now making 60.
Listen, Chandler Parsons, you better take a seat right now, Chandler Parsons.
Make $1 billion in basketball, and somebody's going to be pissed. Like,
well, also I think because it won't be like just the top guys that are going to be making these crazy amounts. It'll be sort of the middle guys, and everyone's like, "Hold up!" It's just, but by the way, that's just
I'm
evolution
mad now.
of everything.
What these guys make off the bench.
I'm mad now.
That is the problem. Like Larry Bird is watching this and Tobias Harris making $300 million, and he's like, "I was so much better than that guy." So I think that's natural to feel that way.
And think of how much easier it is to just travel. Everything's just better, more lux, more all of it. Well, thank you, Draymond. You got a whole conversation out of that one. Anonymous GM time, Lou. Straight at you on this one. Anonymous GM claims that you can't win multiple playoff series with Ja as your best player. You buying that?
I don't want to buy that, but you know, he's only won one playoff series so far. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I don't want to buy that. I don't want to subscribe to that with everything. Like, we're still very early in Ja Morant's career. Let's not forget that. You know, we live in a world where what have you done for me lately? You know, he's still building legacy out. Like, you don't know what position he's going to put the Memphis Grizzlies in this year. You know, they're in a rut right now.
Fair.
Granted, yeah, they're in a rut right now. Granted that, but he's still building it out. You know, so for that GM to say that at this time, it's valid. He's only won one playoff series so far, but I'm not buying the fact that in the totality of his career, he'll never be the number one guy. I'm not buying that.
Yeah, 2 things. Put your name on it for starters. If you're gonna say that.
Yeah.
Second of all,
don't make me the guy to have to answer to your anonymous ass. Like,
now you have to put your name on something. Now you have to put your name on someone that someone is not putting their name.
Now, by the time we get off of air, the whole city of Memphis is gonna be mad at me because I said I have to agree with him. It's like, no, like put your name on it, but the record states what the record states is what it is.
This anonymous little ghost is also right. Ja Morant is 7-12 in the playoffs. Like, he's won one series. Like, I disagree because I do think Ja Morant is a 1A type player on a championship team. I think he is that good. Now, I think 2 and 3 and 4 option on that team have to be very good. They have to be able to shoot the ball. They have to make up for what he doesn't do great. But Ja Morant is awesome, and Ja Morant is electric. Ja Morant is going.
Is he the best player on his team now?
He's the best player. Yeah, he's the best player. I mean, Jaren Jackson.
Could you not make the argument for Jaren Jackson a little bit?
No, Ja Morant's the best player. Jaren Jackson might be the most valuable just because what he does defensively and shot blocking, things like that. But Ja Morant's the best player on that team.
And is it also an insult if you're 1B on a championship team? 1A, 1B?
No.
Jaylen Brown's technically 1B, but he was finals MVP. So, I don't think that's an insult necessarily either, but I get it.
And Jaren Jackson doesn't have the profile that Ja Morant has. Ja Morant has a signature shoot. He has all of these different things, and that comes with responsibility. So you have to add that to being the best player on a team argument as well, not just the stats. You know, guys are going to have better years. You know, I've led 5-6 different teams in scoring. That didn't necessarily make me the 1A or 1B guy on that team. You just have different years where other guys are having better years. But all in all, you're going to build around Ja Morant.
And I will say this, longevity though, and like 12 years from now, you look who had a better career, might be Jaren Jackson, just because the defensive players of the years, they're all
just
defensive.
Throw it out there, guys.
But
I just throw a little passes out.
Ja Morant is 1A.
And this is what I hate. You see how much me and Chandler got to say and somebody can just sit behind and be anonymous and just not put their name on nothing like this.
If you want, we can start to like blur out your face every day on the show and you say whatever you want.
Yeah, blur my face. Give me the
sideline sources, Clutch, all these websites are going to post this video of us telling the truth when an anonymous guy kickstarted the whole thing.
But you guys don't want to be anonymous. You're stars. All right, coming up. Put
an address on it.
Which players have the most on the line the rest of the way when we return?
Running back, run it up, running back, run it up, run it back, run it up, run it back.